Hey, all you beautiful people, and welcome to the Glorious and the Mundane podcast. I'm your host, Christy Nockels. This podcast is where we explore what true and authentic life in God looks like, even on our most ordinary days and moments. But I will say too, even on our busiest, fullest, and even craziest days. If you've been following along with me on social media, you know that Nate and I have a lot going on in our little world, as I know you do too. But we definitely have some monumental moments happening around here. If you've been listening along, you know that our son Noah is engaged to be married in October, which we are overjoyed about. Our middle daughter, Eliana, has officially moved out on her own, which is actually really fun to watch, and I'm doing okay with it, I promise. And then our youngest, Annie Rose, is about to graduate from high school, and she has plans to move to Texas in August. And I've decided that, I'm not sad about it today, but I know it's all coming and the Lord is going to carry me through it. That's right. These are all wonderful things, but as many of you know, they are bittersweet things, and they come with lots of emotions and transitions. And then add to all of that, we are right in the middle of rolling out a new lullaby album that will fully release on June 6th. The album is called King Who Never Sleeps, Anthems for Rest, and you can pre-save the album now on Apple Music or Spotify, and you can see all the titles of the 14 songs there. You can hear 3 of the songs now. The Fly the Nest song, which I wrote about this very moment in my life with all the things happening, and our last little birdie about to fly the nest, as well as the songs Be Where Your Feet Are and Better Than We Know. As many of you know, we released a lullaby album in 2017 called Be Held, Lullabies for the Beloved, and it turned out to not only be a fan favorite album, but our own favorite album. And through the years, the stories from the songs have just kept rolling in and surprising us in the sweetest way of how God has truly met people through these songs. And so I was overjoyed when I felt the nudge from God about 1.5 years ago to begin writing more lullabies. And now here we are, about to release them in such a special season for our own family. The timing is a little bit crazy, I'll admit, but at the same time, it feels pretty providential. You'll notice that we chose the subtitle Anthems for Rest this time around. These songs are still very much lullabies. They are meant for you to be able to play them all night over yourself or over your kids or over your family. But our hope in calling them Anthems for Rest is that maybe those who have felt like these songs are just for kids or babies, they'll give them a try and realize with the rest of us that none of us ever outgrow the need to be sung over about the Father's love over us and all the reasons that we have to trust Him and rest in Him. And I will say that is the overarching theme here for this new lullaby album, is this refuge that we have in our King and His kingdom. You'll notice if you look at my Instagram or if you pre-save the album, you can see that the artwork is a coat of arms. Our incredibly gifted daughter, Eliana, hand drew this crest. And when I first saw it, it actually took my breath away as she so insightfully depicted the heart of what I felt like God had spoken over this album as the theme. If there's one passage of scripture that I've kept returning to in terms of the themes over this project, it's been Colossians 1, 9 through 14, where Paul says this: "For this reason, since the day we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. We continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of His will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, so that you may have great endurance and patience, and giving joyful thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of His holy people in the kingdom of light. For He has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son He loves, in whom we have redemption and the forgiveness of sins." I wanted this crest, as well as these songs, to represent all of the reasons that we have to rest as believers in Jesus. I wanted it to remind us of how we can be strengthened in these days, to have great endurance and patience. And it's this, to remember that He has qualified us through Jesus to share in the inheritance of His holy people in the kingdom of light. Y'all, this is everything. He has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son He loves. I don't mean to be weird or cheesy, but I hope that washes over you today and sinks deep into your heart that you have belonging and you have an inheritance in the kingdom of the Son He loves. If you've believed on Jesus, you are loved because of who He is. Isn't that beautiful? As we lead up to the full release, I'll come back around to this and share more around the coat of arms. You can see that there's 4 parts in that crest, and each of those have deep meaning because you know me. But until then, you can actually visit my Instagram page and get a bit of a hint on what those 4 parts mean. Even if you do follow me on Instagram, as you know, there's an algorithm that is a bit of a gatekeeper and keeps most of my posts from actually reaching you. So you'll have to go to my actual page and you can see these beautiful renderings that Eliana created as we were leading up to the announcement of the title and the artwork of the album. But when you do get eyes on them, just know that we're actually talking about doing a series of maybe like nursery prints out of these. I could see them matted and framed in a nursery or in kids' rooms or in any room of the house for that matter. They would absolutely be stunning. So be sure to check those out. And today I just wanted to share a little bit around the song, Be Where Your Feet Are. But more than just sharing about the song, of course, I want to encourage you right where you are today to be able to rest assured that the strength and capacity of Jesus is available to you today. If you believe in Him, His enoughness is yours today. And so often we just need to pause, right? And remember it. Sometimes we need someone to remind us of what's true. I've shared with you before that often as a songwriter, I will get the title before I even get the song. That was definitely the case here. I've heard this phrase, be where your feet are, through the years, and no pun intended here, but it actually kind of stopped me in my tracks the first time I heard someone say it. In fact, I think it was actually Amy Grant. She said it from the stage one night that sometimes when she gets out in front of a crowd of people, that she has to allow herself to just settle, that it just takes a minute to just truly be there. And of course, I could so relate, especially as an introvert. Sometimes just being in a room full of people, not even in front of a crowd, can feel like an out-of-body experience for an introvert. So yeah, being where your feet are, it's learning to be present with ourselves, with God, and with others. Why be present to ourselves? Because we need to know what we need. And why be present to God? Because He is what we need. And when we know what we need and we receive what we need from Him, it changes how we show up and are present with others. I believe it causes us to see others more clearly and to choose to love them for who they are and even where they are. Over the years, I've become very aware of how songs can be a sacred partnership with God. Even as I'm writing, I will often ask the Lord, what is the invitation here? With this song, the invitation is pretty clear. We live in a world that runs at an unsustainable pace. And as a result of this, you and I end up hosting this deep weariness and fatigue in our heart and soul. I believe that most of us long to be present to God, ourselves, and others. But often, because of the cultural norms, we find ourselves instead, as Sherry Turkle once said, forever elsewhere. This song was made for us to sing to one another in these peculiar days of this digital age, to remind each other that moments of authentic connection are to be treasured like gold. Sometimes we just need to tell each other to settle in, to be still, and to take it all in. to even give ourselves the permission to let go of the rush and the hustle and to give ourselves the time to receive what we need so that we can also care for the people who are right in front of us. I picture moms being able to play or sing this song over their kids. I picture kids maybe playing this song over their parents. I see friends singing it over friends, spouses singing it to each other, reminding each other that the moments are fleeting and we need to take them all in with grace and with peace. And hear me out. This isn't a thus saith the Lord moment, but I really firmly believe that this is the Father's heart over us. So you can also just sit and let it be sung over you, knowing His heart is this. Can you sit in the quiet? Will you trust me to know that you're in the right place? You've got nowhere to go. So just for a little while, won't you let yourself be safe in the stillness right here with me? In a world that's forever elsewhere, we were made to be right here together, in this together. So slow down and take in the moment because everything is going to be all right. I know it. You're all right. So just be where your feet are. Are you picking up the invitation here? As I was writing this song, the first verse came quite easily, and even the chorus flowed out fairly easily. But for whatever reason, I was stuck on the second verse for a little bit. And one day, I decided to ask Nathan about it, actually. He would be the first person to tell you that he's not a lyricist, but what I have learned is that he does very much have a way with his words. He's also someone who very much lives this invitation of being where his feet are. He does this better than anyone I know, and he might agree, sometimes even to a fault. But one of Noah's friends, William, who is actually probably only 23 years old or so, he was talking to me the other day about Nathan, and he said, I want to be more like Nathan. The way that, when you talk to him, he's like right there behind his eyes. And I thought to myself, number one, how incredibly insightful is that? Hello, Gen Z, we see you. But he elaborated by saying, how like when you talk to some people and it's just like they're just somewhere else? He was like, not Nathan. He's just right there with you, and I want to be more like that. Well, that's why I asked Nathan to help me with verse 2 here. I asked him, I said, what's the deeper invitation here as we go with the song? And he said something like, well, it's like that whole thing when we sit in tomorrow and we call it today. And I said, I'm sorry, what? As I got a pen and I started writing down what he was saying, I said, say that again. He laughed and he was like, when we sit in tomorrow, but it's today, how are we going to look back on? And I said, our yesterday. And well, verse 2 was born. When we sit in tomorrow and we call it today, how will we look back on our yesterday? Yeah, we're so good at dreaming about the places we'll go, but look what we have here. These are moments of gold. In a world that's forever elsewhere, we were made to be right here together, in this together. So slow down and take in the moment because everything is going to be all right. I know it. You're all right. So just be where your feet are. As I began to come around the bridge, I began to think more and more about Gen Z actually and what presses on them and causes them in particular to stay in that loop of being forever elsewhere, which we all struggle with, but it's something that has been hardwired into their generation because of technology. That phrase, forever elsewhere, comes from John Haidt's book called The Anxious Generation, which I actually highly recommend to you if you have children maybe 10 years old and older. You need to know that John is an atheist. I've honestly prayed for him multiple times that God would bring him to himself. But I think he is saying some very important things here. Honestly, things that the church should be saying when it comes to the family and what it looks like to restore order in our children's lives, especially where the iPhone and social media have brought disorder and chaos. But as I began to even think of my own kids' lives and what they struggle with, so much of it is because they can see everything. They can see what everyone else is out there doing 24/7. And it all comes with this expectation. And they get pulled underneath this pressure to have this presence, this curated stance on all the things. Even if you don't have a platform, there's still this deep belief that you have to hold up some sort of branding, even just as a high school kid, this image. And it's so hard for young people to separate all of that from their actual identity. It's hard for even adults to do that. So that's why it's so important, I really believe, to gather our kids and even their friends, to create safe spaces for them to unplug. The other night, we got to host the cast party for Annie's high school musical, and we had about 28 kids here at the house. I ended up putting a sign on the front door because we all met downstairs, and I wanted them to know that they could come on in, come on downstairs. So I left a sign that said, "Come on in, leave your shoes in the entry, welcome home." And y'all, it was the sweetest thing to see almost 30 pairs of shoes around our front door in our entry. And while I love the health benefits of everyone leaving their shoes in my entry and not tracking everywhere they've been into our home, I also love the thought that, most of those kids had never been in our home before. But there they all were within minutes, sock-footed and laughing out loud in our basement. And I promise it just caused walls to fall quicker somehow. And besides, being sock-footed is almost like, one step from getting to put on pajama pants. But I just loved the thought of them leaving everywhere they had been upstairs in the entry. And it was like they really were able to better be where their feet were as they were just sliding around in their socks eating Chick-fil-A nuggets. But the first part of the bridge of this song says this: "What is meant for you won't pass you by, so you're right on time. There's no need to worry or to hurry up or push your way through." My goodness, if I could have taken the faces of every one of those kids the other night just in my hands to say, what is meant for you won't pass you by. You're right on time. There's no need to worry or to hurry up or push your way through. In other words, God is sovereign and He is writing your story. And because He is sovereign, as my friend Shannon Scott would say, there is only plan A over your life. There is not plan B, C, or D that follows our poor performances or our hustling or our mishaps. This, of course, doesn't mean we just get to kick back and wait and see what comes to us. This is Ephesians 2:10. Coming to life. We are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared before Him, that we should walk in them. I believe the invitation here is to stay closely connected to the heart of God, surrendered to Him, so that, like Romans 12:2 says, we can discern and know what is the will of God, what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God for us, that He's already planned in advance. The back half of the bridge says this: so where you find yourself, open up your heart, because after all, there's nothing greater than to love the one who's right in front of you. This actually came from a story that I heard from a friend, and it's something that the Holy Spirit actually spoke to his heart in a moment where he had shared a message from a stage in front of a crowd, and he talked about how he was weary and he kind of just wanted to go, to the green room, decompress a bit. But someone from the crowd had approached him and they wanted to discuss what he had shared from the stage. And he said he was standing there, wishing to himself like, ugh, this is sweet, but I kind of don't want to be in this conversation. And he said the Lord dropped this thought into his heart. He said, you'll never be greater than the love you hold for the person right in front of you. He shared that story to a room full of worship leaders at a retreat, and you could just hear the response all over the room as it landed on us. I think because it's just this beautiful picture, though convicting, it's a beautiful picture of the economy of heaven, isn't it? A kingdom ordering of what we're to really be about. Now, let me be clear. I'd say this to my own kids, and I'm going to say it to you. I believe wholeheartedly that in this instance, the Lord was talking about a non-harmful, non-abusive person. And I'm trusting that you know what I mean when I'm saying that. We are to love our enemies and forgive, but some of our enemies need not be allowed to be in front of us or in our midst. So there's that. This call and invitation is about loving the people that you know that God has put around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, people in your community, people that God has called you to minister to and encourage, that He's given you a heart for. I'll end with this. A couple of weeks ago, I shared a selfie video on Instagram of me in the parking lot of Annie's high school. It was a Monday, and I needed to drop something off for her. This was a very busy week for her with what's called Tech Week, leading up to the musical that she had a lead part in. And while I was on my way there, I became overwhelmed by all that was on my plate for that week. As many of you know and understand, it was one of those weeks where it did not appear that there were going to be enough hours in the day or days in the week to be able to get done all that I had spinning. But as we've talked about in this season on this podcast, keeping an open heart to God on the daily is absolutely crucial. It's vital to our flourishing. And I've learned that when I feel the bombardment of the pace of this life, I can immediately go to God with it. So as I was driving to go take Annie what she needed, I just began to surrender my whole heart to God once more. I acknowledged out loud that I needed His strength and capacity to fill me once again afresh, to flow through me. And I invited Him to come live His life through me. And then I began to ask Him for kingdom order over my day, over my week, over my to-do list. I asked Him for a supernatural ordering of things, that I might be able to also still have moments of joy, to be where my feet are, staying present to my people, present to God, present to myself. And this was thankfully my posture by the time I arrived at Annie's school, because when she walked out for her lunch hour, she came up and stuck her head inside my car as I rolled down the window. And she said, "Did you know that this is my last Monday of high school?" And I didn't know that. I said, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, next Monday is senior skip day. And the next Monday is study at home day before finals." And there we were in the midst of one of these little bittersweet lasts. She proceeded to ask me about a couple of other things that she needed for the musical, like that day. I actually shudder to think how it might have landed on me had I not just prayed through tears and surrendered everything and everyone to God on my way there, asking Him to bring a holy kingdom order over my day and over my week. And you know how grateful I am that because I was no longer overwhelmed by my spinning plates and my looming to-do list, I became overwhelmed instead in the sweetest way. And I ended up cupping my hands around her face and just looking her straight in the eyes and telling her how proud I am of her and how much I love her. And I told her, I know it's going to be a really busy week. It's going to be crazy, but enjoy it. It's going to be gone before you even know it. Were there still some really messy parts of that week? Absolutely. Did I still have to work hard and stay organized and on task? Yes. But did I watch God show up and work out some really not only beautiful, but just downright helpful things? I did. Next week, I'll tell you about some of those as we come around the song called Better Than We Know. But until then, friends, enjoy these last bit of school days before the long, lazy days of summer roll over us. It's a crazy busy time, but enjoy it. It'll be gone before we know it. I'll talk to you soon.
Can you see it in the quiet? Will you trust me to know that you're in the right place? You gotta know where to go. So just for a little while, won't you let yourself be safe in the stillness, right here with me, in a world that's forever elsewhere. We were made to be right here, together in this, together. So slow down and take in the moment, 'cause everything is gone.